Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, visibility catalyst and best-selling publisher. And I got to tell you, there are some people that come into your life and you're like, our paths were meant to cross. Today's guest is one of those people, and I've just loved watching the work that she's doing in the world because it's on a topic that, sad to say, affects so many of us, and that's anxiety. And I don't know about you, but I've struggled with it, and I have loved ones who still struggle with it. So you're not alone. So today I'm talking with Anxiety Slayer co-host Shann Vander about anxiety basics and what you can do to get back in touch when anxiety leaves you feeling out of sorts and disconnected. And as I shared, I've struggled with it in the past, and I know how disconcerting it can be. Well, after 9 years, and are you ready for this? 5 million downloads and over 400 free podcast episodes, Anxiety Slayer is one of the most listened to resources for stress and anxiety relief. I send my friends and family there all the time. I go there. Everything that you're going to find and what we're going to be talking about today, it's the go-to resource. So let me tell you a little bit about my soul sister. So Shann Vander is a transformation goddess, lifelong media expert, best-selling author, award-winning podcaster, and anxiety coach. She's the author of Life on Your Terms and co-author of 7 more best-selling books for women. Shann co-hosts the award-winning and wildly popular Anxiety Slayer podcast that, as I shared a moment ago, has over 5 million downloads. She co-created Anxiety Slayer and the Anxiety Slayer Academy to help people feel more peace and tranquility in their life with free podcasts, anxiety release exercises, and supportive courses created to slay anxiety. And I have to say, she's also been a dear friend for about 10 years now. She does all of my sound work and podcasts, and she's just an extraordinary soul. So welcome, Shann.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for having me back on your show. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you and I have had a lot of personal conversations on this topic. But first off, I want to start by congratulating you. 9 years of producing Anxiety Slayer podcast. It's one hell of a milestone, my friend.
Thank you so much. It really is. Ananga and I laugh that we're dinosaurs in the podcasting industry because we were at it before it became a really big deal.
Yeah, so take us back. Like, how did it start? How did you and Ananga meet?
Well, we were in the same circle of writers and bloggers at the time, and Ananga found my very first blog when I was doing everything True Balance life coaching and getting my yoga teacher certification and really putting myself out there with guided visualizations and things like that. And she really liked what she found, and she reached out and wondered if I might be interested in co-creating a self-care course and a project that she was dreaming into life. And so we had a couple of conversations that led to creating this program, and then somehow or another, we decided that it would be a good idea to create a podcast and started dreaming that awake. And here we are, 9 years later, and Anxiety Slayer is, still a big part of our lives, and we've grown our listenership to just, a wild number of wonderful souls who listen in religiously, and we're so very grateful to be supporting people who are suffering with anxiety.
And that's my next question. How did you decide that this is what your podcast was going to be about? What led to the birth of the actual Anxiety Slayer message, and was there a personal reason behind it, or what was it?
Yeah, there were a couple of things going on. Ananga had a history of suffering with anxiety when she was younger, and she started on a healing journey and became an EFT practitioner before all of the people you've heard about now. She wrote a book 20 years ago on EFT tapping and was teaching it all around England and learned how EFT could help her and then, of course, help others. She knew that with the combination of my coaching skills, yoga teacher training, my voice, she was very captivated by that for guided meditations and relaxations, plus her skills in Ayurveda, breathing techniques, music. She's an incredible musician.
I was just
All
going
of
to
those,
say she really is.
all of those things. Yeah, actually, she's the engineer who created your music for your show.
That's how I've always loved her music. You know that.
Yeah,
I forgot. Yes, she did.
Yeah. So all of our talents kind of dovetailed beautifully, and we thought this is a way that we can really help people with stress and anxiety. I think it really started out with that stress piece, and then we realized that we were onto something much bigger than that. And at the time, I was a big Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan and absolutely loved Joss Whedon, who produces that show amongst many others. And I decided that Anxiety Slayer would be a great name for our podcast and website and business, and she liked it as well, and we had a good laugh about me being such a nerd.
But I got to tell you, it connects immediately.
Yeah, it does. We got very lucky to follow that nudge to go with that name, and we're so very grateful to work together. She's one of my best friends in the world. She is so kind and resourceful and such a great teacher, and we just play off each other really well, and it's effortless. While there's time involved and things that have to be done every week, and we meet every week, it just is so easy. We're absolutely meant to do it. We're absolutely meant to be doing what we're doing.
Yeah, that's beautiful when you find that friendship and partnership that flows with ease and grace, and isn't that what it's about?
Yes.
And I guess that answers my question I wanted to ask you. Like, how have you kept the energy flowing for so many years? Not just between the two of you, right?
Right.
But the show has never become stagnant. It's always, you create a new and beautiful messaging. You're creating new meditations. It's always, I'd say, cutting edge that people know they can go and get the relief. And as you know, I've referred my grandson and other family members there.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for that. I appreciate it. How we've kept things going is really a big part of our listenership, our audience. We receive emails every single day from people who want us to answer their questions and who thank us for what it is we're doing, and then wonder if we might be able to touch on this subject or another. And so we feel so lucky to be able to help them. And then we hear back often from the folks who like, I can't believe you answered our question, which is always fun. But the second piece is because, as you know, Linda, I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I can't stay in one lane too long. So we have albums that we produce. We have over 10 albums that are available on CD Baby, our guided relaxations and meditations and breathing albums and grounding albums. We go off and work on those kinds of creative things. We create courses, online courses that are a part of the Anxiety Slayer Academy. We do, of course, the podcast every week. We just really mix it up. So by mixing it up, and by having listeners who are very active, we keep that fire burning.
And what I also heard, too, is you listen. You listen to what they need.
Yes.
And I think that's a big part of it. They feel heard. They feel validated. They feel like it's a safe community. And the two of you have created that. And, I just want to witness that for you because that's what I see from the outside looking in.
Thank you very much. We found that reflected back, and we just started a private Facebook group for our Anxiety Slayers. Hasn't even been up a year, and is just, it's hard to keep up on the number of people who want to join. Every single day, there's more and more people who want to step in and join and have conversations and know that they're safe and private, and we expect that it'll continue to grow because of that safe space and because we're actively doing all we can to support so many who are suffering.
And that's what it's all about, right, is creating a safe container. And we're all looking for that in every area of our life, whether we suffer with anxiety or not. But
right.
Especially for those who suffer with it, it's even more important. And I've always loved your voice anyway. That's why you've been my go-to voiceover person for, 9-10 years. But for your meditations and all of the other offerings, I could see your voice, as Ananga did many years ago, as that soothing respite, right? Pop in the CD, you guide them through a relaxation. So it's a double win. They get the relaxation part of the meditation, but they get your beautiful voice too.
Oh, thank you.
So what are some of the, why don't we jump to break first, Shann, because I don't want to interrupt you. But when we get back, I'd love to talk about some of the anxiety relief practices that you have recommended most often, right? Or maybe some of the favorites that you've heard from your community of what their favorites are. So I'll be back in a moment, and I am with Shann Vander, co-host of the Anxiety Slayer podcast, as well as Anxiety Slayer Academy. You can learn more at anxietyslayer.com.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Inspiration for a woman's soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is my soul sister, dear friend, Shann Vander, transformation goddess, lifelong media expert, and award-winning podcaster and anxiety coach. She is, as I shared, the co-founder of AnxietySlayer.com. All right, Shann, come on. I know everybody's eager because everyone, whether it's situational anxiety or lifelong deep anxiety, I believe with the way the world is right now, many of us can relate to it. And that's sad to say, of course, right, that we have so many triggers around us that can bring on anxiety. Do you have some favorite anxiety relief practices that you've used or that you found that your community loves or is drawn to?
Oh, several, actually. So I'll share a list with you and kind of walk you through them, which is really, really nice because it covers lots of different bases for different people who might be drawn to one area or another. One of the very best things that you can do if you're starting to feel anxious, if you're starting to feel like, I'm not in my body right now, I need to get grounded, is take your right thumb and place it in the palm of your left hand. And it's right in the center, right where your middle finger lands if you were to make a fist, right there, and press firmly. And take some deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Maybe 2 or 3 rounds of your breath while pressing firmly. And this is called the calm point. And it just happens to be in a place on your hand that is tied to your nervous system to help you chill out and calm down. And this is something that I've shared with so many over the years, and Ananga has been practicing this as well, and we taught both of our daughters this when they were in high school. This is something that you can do sitting at your desk. It's something you can do at a restaurant. It's something you can do wherever you are, and no one knows what it is you're doing. It's a really helpful way to calm anxiety.
I was going to say, that's the one you shared with me a couple of years ago for my grandson.
Yeah. Did you ever get any feedback of whether he used it and if it helped?
Yes, he said the same thing that you just shared, because remember, he has the social anxiety at school. He could do it in the classroom and no one knew.
Yes.
It's exactly what you said.
Yeah, it's so good. The other thing is, if you're starting to have an anxiety attack or just feeling like everything's closing in on you, if there's any possible way you can switch up your environment, if you can get up and get outside and get some fresh air, if you can't get outside, if you can get to a window and look outside, you just need to change things up. You need to move. By sitting in the same place or by curling up or by allowing yourself not to shift, that's going to cause more of a problem. But if you move, if you can get outside, if you can take a breath, remind yourself, all is well. I've got this. That's another way. We also recommend a product called Rescue Remedy made by Bach Flower. The Bach Flower remedies have been around for over 100 years. They're natural remedies that can be found online. And there's one called Rescue Remedy. It can also be found at health stores all over the place. And it comes in sprays, little candies, or in a tincture. And Ananga and I have been using this for a long time. She has for much longer than I have. But I have it on hand, had it for my daughter, keep it in my purse, a couple of sprays underneath your tongue, and the natural essences of that particular mixture will help you feel much more calm and relaxed. They also have a version for sleep. So that's another area that you might want to look into. And we absolutely recommend that a lot. And we have our listeners tell us, yay, thank you for letting us know about that. Essential oils. Go ahead.
One of my favorite. No, I was just going to say one of my favorite essential oils.
Yes, essential oils. And we recommend that you start with lavender. Lavender is not only very healing and calming, but it also has this component of rebuilding trust, which is so sweet. And you put some on your pulse points, put some on your chest, breathe deeply, put it in a diffuser, use it with this time of year, at least where we live, Linda, I have a humidifier going all the time. You can put some in there. It's my go-to for being calm and relaxed. So I highly recommend that you have some lavender. There's also many breathing practices, but the one that Ananga and I recommend the most is called the long exhale. When you start to feel anxiety coming on, or if you think you're going to have a panic attack, one of the very best things you can do, sit up straight, get your feet on the ground, take a nice deep breath in, a nice belly breath. So you want to see your belly fill up, and then hold it for a couple of counts, and then a nice long exhale. So maybe 7 counts. So if I were to go over that again, it would be 4 counts breathing in, 2 counts holding it, 7 counts on the way out. Do you want to do that with me now?
I would love to.
Okay, so let's take a nice deep breath in. Hold it for 2. Exhale for 7. And you repeat that sequence, Linda, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Nice deep inhalation for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 7. And it's okay if your numbers look a little bit different, not to worry. We just want you to really focus on that long exhale. It will calm your nervous system down. It will slow your heart rate. It'll start to help you feel much better. And you can do that in conjunction with the calm point. You can do that along with having the lavender available. You can do all of these things. I've done all of them at once. I've had a glass of water with a few drops of rescue remedy in it. I've had lavender in the diffuser. And sometimes, it's just this beautiful way to keep yourself nice and calm if you've been feeling on edge.
I love the breathing one because, again, we can do that anywhere also.
Yeah. And nobody's going to notice the lavender either. We have lots of people who struggle with driving, and especially driving this time of year in an area where there's snowfall and ice and things like that. And there are these lovely little diffusers now that you can put on the vent of your car with a few drops of lavender oil and be driving and have lavender in the car. As soon as that goes in your nose and in your brain, it starts doing its work and calming you down a bit, which is nice.
It's a great reminder. I forgot that they make those, and I have so many essential oils. So just wrote myself that reminder because I love using essential oils. Lavender is one of my go-to favorites. It's one as soon as I see it get to the halfway mark in the bottle, I'm like, oh no, not happening. So I place another order because it's one I never want to be out of.
Right. I've been using frankincense lately quite a bit as well. And like you, I have a whole inventory that I go to, some wonderful blends, and it's fun. It's very, very helpful. It's not, I think it's much more powerful than I ever realized.
I found that to be true because at first I started with the whole thing going, oh, they smell good. But when I started realizing how I feel on certain oils, like when I want to be invigorated, I use citruses or Motivate or anything. When I started feeling the difference in my body, I said, this is real and it's natural.
Oh, yeah.
I would rather do this than anything else. And now, like you, I have my whole box in collection. And what's funny is I have the granddaughter addicted. Okay, Amma, how do we want to feel today? I go, you tell me. And she always has lavender. She has the doTERRA lavender roll-on that she puts on sometimes before bed, a little on her wrists. She loves it.
That's so
great. It's part
great.
of her new ritual. But yeah, when she comes over, I let her start the diffusers. I tell her to pick her favorite 3, and she creates some great combinations.
Think about how ahead of the game she's going to be as a young adult, as a young woman, as she grows, and all of these wonderful things that you've been teaching her, pretty much since she was born. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And don't you wish that we knew all these things when we were
younger?
Because Like for me, waking up at, in my 50s, I'm 56 now, to go, shoot, but at least I have them now. But yeah, I believe it's our role to nurture the next generation, give them all our tools, and as you do with your daughter.
I agree. There's one more thing that I'd like to bring forward that's very helpful for anxiety that not a lot of people are aware of, and that is adding magnesium to your diet. Most of us are magnesium deficient. I've had the pleasure of interviewing and getting to know a woman by the name of Dr. Dean, who has written books on magnesium, who is just this incredible expert. She could talk to you about it for days. And what we learned is that with that deficiency, you can become more anxious, more stressed, and by having more magnesium in your diet, you'll start to feel more calm and relaxed. And there's a couple of different ways that you can bring that in. Certainly through your diet, you can bring in magnesium through green leafy vegetables. You can bring it in through supplements. I have supplements that I keep in my bathroom that I take before bed, but I also have a product called Natural Calm that I'll drink on occasion if I'm feeling spun, and it tastes kind of like lemon water. I mean, it tastes just fine. They've got different flavors or whatever, but as soon as it goes into my body, within 15 minutes, I can tell that it's doing its job. And that's something I've used for years, even before Anxiety Slayer, before I even, it's just something I knew I needed. Teas are also important. A chamomile tea is beautiful for relaxing before bed. A lot of our listeners have trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, and so we recommend warm almond milk with a dash of nutmeg. The almonds help you fall asleep, and the nutmeg helps you stay asleep.
Is it the combination of the two?
Yeah, it is. So if you just had almond milk, it's kind of like people who drink dairy and have warm milk before bed to help you get calm and relaxed. So that helps you fall asleep. But there's properties in the nutmeg that help you stay that way. So when you combine the two, for me, I fall asleep very, very easily, but sometimes I don't stay that way. And if I wake up too early and don't want to get up, early bird like you do, if I want to sleep a little bit longer, I'll start adding that into my nightly routine. Thankfully that doesn't happen often, but we have a lot of people suffering with anxiety who have sleep issues.
Yeah, in the past, that was my big thing. I could fall asleep in a moment, sleep 2 hours, and then wake up like someone shot adrenaline through me, and my mind would race. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be able to fall back to sleep. So thankfully that doesn't happen anymore. But that was a big one for most of my life. And I'd be exhausted all the time, of course. So I love all these strategies and tips that you shared. I have a whole list here. When we come back from break, I have a couple questions on a few of them. So let's jump to break, and we'll continue our beautiful conversation. I'll be back in a moment with Shann Vander of AnxietySlayer.com.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Experience a homecoming to your heart. In the foreword of Dr. Deborah Riebel's new book, Being Love, How Loving Yourself Creates Ripples of Transformation in Your Relationships and the World, Marcy Shimoff shares, the answer to our inner longing isn't finding love, it's being love. The practices that Dr. Deborah presents in Being Love are keys to opening your heart and receiving your divine birthright as a physical manifestation of love. Her techniques, developed over years of successful private practice with her clients and from her extensive training in multiple disciplines, are accessible, compassionate, and effective. Her message is powerful, and if you allow it, will change your whole life. Order your copy of Being Love today at beinglovebook.com and receive over 45 transformational gifts. Being Love is brought to you by Inspired Living Publishing.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, you're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is Shann Vander, co-host of the very popular Anxiety Slayer podcast and the Anxiety Slayer Academy. So one of the things you talked about, which I started reading up about probably 6 months ago, was magnesium. I didn't realize how much of an important part it plays, not just in this, but in so many other ways. And you mentioned Natural Calm. I had bought it, but do you take that daily? Or just
I do not. I do not take it daily, but if you find yourself, okay, so before a big event or before a book launch or before some of these things that you do, Linda, it would be a wonderful supplement on those days leading up to it, because you have so much on your plate and so much going on, so it would be very supportive. It's wonderful if you just feel a little jangly. I do not take it every day, but I do take magnesium, the pills or the vitamins, whatever, supplements at night, almost every night before bed, because I know that my body needs it. The other added bonus is for the women listening in, if you have menstrual cramps, you can take magnesium instead of Motrin or instead of a pain pill, because it helps relax your muscles. And so it's a wonderful way to increase your magnesium, but also take care of that discomfort if you're feeling a little bit crampy. Now, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a doctor. I can only speak from my own experiences here, and I would definitely want you to talk to a physician about the things that you're adding, but all of the stuff that I've shared so far today is natural. So
it's all natural.
Yeah.
And the lavender, for me, I've given so much of that as a gift, not just to McKenna, but to Nikki. And when I buy someone a diffuser, it's as a gift. It's always the one I always make sure that it's included, because I don't know it. I know what it does for me.
Right.
And in your work now, because you and Ananga recently launched the Anxiety Slayer Academy. So let's talk about that. Fill us in, girl.
Well, we got to this point where we have, unbelievable amounts of content, Linda, just from having well over 400 podcasts and all of the blog posts and the writing and everything that we've done. We thought, we need to start packaging this up and creating courses for the concerns that we hear about the most. So we started out with a free gift. We did an Anxiety Slayer starter course to help people navigate through a lot of what we talk about, because so much of what we share is new to a lot of folks. They don't know about tapping, or they don't know about breathing exercises, or they've never thought about using a guided meditation to help them feel safe and calm. So we really lay it out for them and let them know how to take care of their mind, body, and soul. And then that led to our first responder series for anxiety attacks. We're working on one now for health anxiety. We have a number of other courses, EFT tapping for anxiety, and the list goes on. And we continue to build those courses, and our goal is to have a very robust offering so that people can go right to a particular course for their particular issue and be able to resolve it. The cool thing about the Academy is you're always a member, and you can move through the curriculum as many times as you want. It keeps track of where you're at. You don't ever have to worry about the course being gone. It's yours forever. And we've had great success so far there. Our students really like it, and yay! It was just another way for us to grow and to make ourselves even more available than we already are.
And what I hear too is much more accessible. Now they can find exactly what it is they're struggling with, because like you said, you've created so much beautiful content over the years. But now they're like, yep, that's me. I can head right there. And they have that
Right.
instant access, which is nice when you're hurting in the moment.
Right. It really is. And what we found and what we're continuing to find in our private Facebook group is that a number of the things that will come up, we have a podcast episode for that. We just laugh. We're like, okay, go to this episode, go to this episode, go to this episode. We can get people started by listening to that conversation, and then they can take it from there and decide if they want to sample the starter kit and if they want to look at the courses. The cool thing about the Academy is you can see all the modules, everything that's included without even having to make an investment yet. So you're really clear on what you're getting. And Ananga and I tend to be very generous.
Oh, yeah.
We have to stop each other. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Now that course is turning into another course. We need to stop and move on.
And I want to talk about that free starter kit. So for someone just meeting you for the first time here on the show at the Anxiety Slayer Academy, what is in the free starter kit?
Well, there's conversations between Ananga and I about anxiety and how you can support yourself. We get into everything from grounding and breathing to tapping to guided relaxations, nutrition. Everything that you and I have talked about today is in there for them, as well as some guided practices that they can follow and really get a sense for how they can take control of what's happening. Like really have I know what to do when this happens. When this happens, I go here. And if I can't go here, I go there. And there's just this lovely, I won't say instruction manual, but it's this guide to how to support yourself when you're
like
suffering
a
with
roadmap,
anxiety.
like a trail map,
Yep,
like if you.
It is.
Because for anxiety sufferers, sometimes we can get spinning, right? And all we need is someone to say, put a hand on our shoulder and say, just take the next step down this path.
Right. And it's just the one step after the next. And to really allow yourself time to practice. And that's what we like to talk about a lot, is just practice with this, because our minds are so fragile sometimes that they'll say, well, that doesn't work. I tried that. It doesn't work. I tried this. It doesn't work. And that's not the truth. It's your mind. And your mind doesn't really run the show, although it would like you to think that it does. So we invite people, come back and try this and try this and try all of these different modalities until you find one that suits you, or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever the number is. Where are you in this moment? What can you do right now to make sure that you're going to feel better soon? And it just feels so good. It makes my heart feel so good to be able to share this information and help one person after the next, and then to get some feedback that it really is working. The more you practice, the better off you are, the more you are completely equipped to care for yourself.
It's so true. And one of the things that's really downloaded for me right now is as I look at the list that you so graciously offered all of us, I'm looking at all of them, and the first word that comes to place is it's empowering, because when you have anxiety, you feel disempowered. You feel caught in a whirlwind. And as I'm looking down this list of everything you shared, each one puts the power back in our hands. And to me, I think that's the first step in quelling our anxiety, right, is to feel like, in this moment I have control, whether I use the lavender or a breathing practice. But I'm looking at them, and every one is very simple, easy to use in the moment. I know some things you have to have with you, like the chamomile tea, but each one just puts me in control of my anxiety instead of the other way around. That's how I was just feeling as I was reading through them as you were speaking. And that's what, from when I used to suffer from, especially teens and 20s, it was hell. I remember thinking exactly what you said a moment ago. We're not our thoughts, but we believe we are, and that's the issue. And that's where I was back then. So, of course, this must be real. The world's going to end, or my health, or this, whatever my anxiety was at that moment. There were many, from health to whatever else. In that moment, it's so real because we believe our thoughts are real and running the show. But when I look at this list, I'm like, in that moment, I can choose something different. In this moment, I can choose something different.
Right.
So that's the beauty of the list you just shared with me. It's empowering.
I'm glad. I'm glad that that's what you that was your takeaway, because it is empowering. Every step that we can take toward feeling better. The other piece is, a lot of times people who suffer with anxiety are married or in relationship, or their parents, or and there are people that love them and that they love that don't really understand how to support them. So Ananga and I've made sure that we're also targeting those folks as well. We just did a podcast recently to help your loved ones understand what you need when you're dealing with an anxiety attack. And let me tell you,
that's great.
Because, telling somebody to suck it up or get over it, or you're too sensitive, or whatever those things are, those happen all the time. That is not what your loved ones need to hear. What they need is for you to stop and be sweet, and to listen, and to support them the best way you possibly can, without being in that space of telling them to get over it, or all of the things that we can do when we don't understand what to do when somebody's suffering, because the person in the moment doesn't always know. But being given a big hug and being asked if you want to talk about it, or can I bring you a cup of tea, those simple things, just like that list I shared, mean just as much.
Oh, they do. They really do. And I shared with some family members, because I used to be a fixer, especially in my younger years. And I was like, I want to fix it for you. And the best advice I got was from an old friend, and she said, Linda, all I need when I'm like that is for you to ask me, what do you need in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
Because she said sometimes each anxiety attack was different, right? Sometimes it might be the tea, it might be a hug. Sometimes it might be, get the hell out of my house, I need to be alone, right?
Right.
But she said, just ask me the question. And I thought that was beautiful. I remembered it even with Tyler, helping my grandson. Ask him what he needs in the moment. Ask him to ask me what's in the moment, And I thought, I love that. And I want to talk more about this when we come back from our final break, because I think you really nailed it about our family and our friends and how anxiety is viewed. And I'm so grateful that you and Anxiety Slayer and Ananga are covering this topic. So let's talk more about that when we come back from our break. I'll be back in a moment with the amazing Shann Vander Leek of AnxietySlayer.com. Stay with us.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
We can all use a little more peace and joy in our lives. Don't you agree? Counselor, best-selling author, and self-nurturing expert Kelly Grimes of CultivatingPeaceAndJoy.com is passionate about empowering overwhelmed and exhausted women to live with more peace, joy, and meaning through the practice of self-nurturing, through Through her experience working with individuals, speaking, providing workshops, and teaching professional and leadership development to forward-thinking organizations, Kelly knows that nurturing peace in the world begins from the inside out. That's why she created the free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app that brings you beautiful self-nurturing reminders, guided meditations, empowering practice tools, and daily prompts with an inspiring question to guide your daily self-nurturing practice. Download your free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app today at cultivatingpeaceandjoy.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and today we're talking about anxiety. And, in today's day and age, I think we're all affected in some way or another. And if you're just joining us and you missed the first half of the show, be sure to listen to the full episode because Shann shared some really simple yet powerful anxiety relief practices that I couldn't believe that are so empowering, but also so easy to do. And we're going to talk about that and more now that Shann's back here with me. So, Shann, right before the break, we brought up that through Anxiety Slayer, you're realizing you got to talk to those who love those who suffer with anxiety. And, from our personal conversations, I think that's so important because sometimes our loved ones, without meaning to, can actually feed our anxiety because they don't know what to do or they want to fix us
Right.
Or is that what you hear also from your community?
Oh, yeah, all the time. And that's why Ananga and I, the very first thing that we recommend is to ask the question, how do you feel and what do you need? And they might not, your loved one might not always know what they need, but they can generally tell you how they feel. And that might lead to something, getting them a glass of water, a cup of tea, going for a walk, giving them space, wrapping them in a blanket, whatever that might look like. Sweet, simple things that you can do. It's not, and just be available. Be available. As you said, Linda, be available to support them, be available to leave. But just don't put yourself in a position where you want to fix them or where you think they're being too sensitive, or even if you don't understand it, you love them and you don't have to understand it. They're suffering, so you want to be able to do whatever it is you can do to help them move through it. And it's such a blessing to have loved ones who understand.
Yeah, because I think there's for the most part, I don't think it's intentional. But I've had people in my life when I was younger going, what are you talking about? Why are you so anxious? We all went through the same thing. But we're not the same. We're not wired the same.
No.
Some are more sensitive, right, and open,
Right.
and we're just different. But has that come up where someone's had the same circumstance as someone else, so they feel judged for their anxiety, which then, of course, adds to their anxiety and their self-worth issues?
Of course. And there's all that you're too sensitive. The people that we serve that are more sensitive, and I can relate, and so can Ananga, because we're incredibly sensitive human beings, and so we know what that's like. And to be able to give some helpful tips and to be able, for instance, this podcast that I just told you about, to be able to say, hey, Mom, listen to this episode. I think it'll really help you understand where I'm at and how you can help me. Listen to husbands, wives, siblings, children, whatever, it's a good place to start. And we just need to be a little bit more sweet with the ones that we love and a little bit more understanding that there might be more suffering going on than what you might deal with. Your suffering might show up in a completely different way. Right now, we've got a lot of people in the collective consciousness that are suffering because they're freaked out about the stress going on in the world, about the fires and about politics and about all of these things that they can't control. And that list goes on and on. One of the very, very first things that Ananga and I invite our listeners to do is take a media break. And
I've been doing that.
And just step away, because you're not going to miss anything. If anything is that important, you're going to learn it through social media, through a friend, through checking in on occasion, versus taking in the news for those who still watch television in the morning and in the evening and sometimes before they go to bed, or on the radio or what have you. And it's too much coming in. It's too much stress. And so for people who are extra sensitive on top of that, who are also trying to just manage in their day-to-day life, I mean, some of these folks have a hard time getting out of bed and going to work. Some feel like it's a chore to get together with friends for dinner because of social anxiety. You add media to that and negativity to that, and it makes it that much easier to want to be reclusive and not be a part of the world.
I'm so glad you touched base on this, because for me, I struggled a few years ago when I started disconnecting from a lot of media. I said, well, you can't stick your head in the sand. I went through that whole judgment thing. And then I said, well, why don't you walk your walk, Linda? Because if you believe women are the nurturers of the next generation, which I do, then how can I be at my best energetically, spiritually, emotionally, physically if I don't nurture me? And nurturing me means managing anxiety and any other things that throw my life off balance. So if it doesn't bring me joy, I don't do it. So my guilt's over with that. But that's how I rationalize it, was if it lowers my vibration, if it brings me angst, why am I going to bring it into my life? Because I'm the ripple that affects my family. That ripple that affects them then goes out. Then I'm adding to the bullshit of the world instead of starting with me.
Right. Oh, I hear you. Believe me. I was finding myself, flipping off the TV. And I mean, flipping off as in,
I know, the bird.
Not turning it off.
Yep.
And I thought, wait a minute. I don't want to be in that. That's not the energy
then we're
I want to
adding
be in.
to it,
I don't want to be angry. That's not good for my body. That's not good for my liver. That's not good for, I'm adding to it. So then it's like, okay, self-awareness is a big part of all of this, and beyond media, let me bring up another item that everyone listening needs to be mindful of if you're stressed or if you're dealing with anxiety, and that is caffeine is not your friend. It is not your friend. Caffeine will absolutely add fuel to the flame of your anxiety. The only caffeine that I allow in my life is I still have coffee. I don't have it every day, but I do have 1 cup of coffee most days, and I do fine with it. But it will stay in your system for like 8 hours. Caffeine stays around a long time. I don't drink soda. I don't drink caffeinated beverages or any of those drinks that are energy drinks or any of that. So if you find that you're suffering with anxiety and you drink a lot of caffeine, Cokes or Pepsis and coffees, multiple coffees throughout the day, that is the very first thing I would have you cut back on. You will not even believe how much better you feel by reducing your intake of caffeine.
It's a big one. I do still drink coffee, probably 3 cups a day. It doesn't bother me that way, but if I have a lot going on, it's as if my body organically knows, because suddenly I can't even stand the taste of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's like my body saying, Lynn, not right now. And I'm like, but I want it.
Sorry, I'm talking over you.
That's okay. So I've learned, but I have had that talk with my grandson because they love all the iced coffees and the drinks, and I've had multiple talks. because it adds to it, as you said. So I'm so glad that you added that in as an extra bonus anxiety relief strategy. You know, our time together always seems to go like so fast, even when we're on our personal chats. Don't you notice that, Shann?
Yes.
I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for being here, for one.
Well, thank you
I want to invite everyone. If you or a loved one are struggling with anxiety at all, I invite you to go to anxietyslayer.com. Grab that free starter kit. Start there. Go to the Anxiety Slayer podcast, which is on iTunes, and you'll have no trouble finding it because you'll find it everywhere. And listen to the episodes. Shannon and Nanga have created so much content and provide resources for you so you don't have to struggle alone. Today's conversation was just the icing on the cake. Head over to anxietyslayer.com to dive deeper into the resources that can support you in moving through this. Thank you, my beautiful friend.
Thank you, Linda.
And I look forward to having everyone join me every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the OMTimes Radio Network. You can also find Inspired Conversations on multiple podcast platforms. Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, and choose happiness.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.